Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Some undocumented immigrants in Mississippi locked themselves in their homes today. ICE officials say 680 people were arrested yesterday at food processing plants around the state. By this morning, more than 300 had been released with orders to appear in court.
Yes, and like that, the raids have begun. Oh, why did they begin? What were they about? What's going to happen? Right? Immigration front and center. We got a bunch of people here. They're not supposed to be here, right? According to the law, right? For whatever that's worth. Let's be 100% honest at this point in time. I don't think that anybody can even define it anymore. We've lost our way in so many ways. So what do you do, right? Like, this is those things. What do you do? How do you go about doing these things? Right? How do you go about fixing these things? How do you go? Well, first thing you do is you publicize it and you make it that it is the worst thing in the history of the world, and that any time that you support any kind of border protection or enforcing the laws, that you are a white supremacist, a xenophobe, and all those things. And the second thing you do is you put the cameras in front of the people who are upset, in particular kids, because kids get stuff done, right? That's what nobody ever says, hey, I got a great idea. Let's raise money for schools. Let's raise taxes. We'll roll out the teachers. No, you roll out the kids. Why? Because it tugs at the heartstrings.
I don't want my dad. Today, we saw the aftermath of the ICE raids in Mississippi. Children begging to see their parents.
My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
11-year-old Magdalena Gomez Gregorio was reunited with her dad today. Christina Persalta is the godmother of two boys whose mother was detained.
He said he just wants his mom back.
Nearly 300 were released from custody with notices to appear in court. But tonight, CBS has learned ICE didn't notify local school districts or Child Protective Services prior to the raids, leaving schools scrambling to make sure students had a place to go after classes ended.
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh, my God, that is so awful that they did that. So, wait, now people aren't coming out, they're not going to work, and they're not going to school. So had they have known, what do you think would have happened? They've already released half of them, right? They've already released half. Some are still in some sort of facility. I don't know where they put them at this point in time. I don't know. Like, it's like, can you work here? Where do you put them? So some are being detained and some have been released. Last night, took Jack to his first football game. I had people blowing up my phone throughout well, I think it's wrong what they did. I'm like, well, why is it wrong? Because the kids were upset. I said, do you care that the kids were upset today, that people are getting pulled over and people are being arrested for bench warrants and all those kind of things, and they've had kids and they're taken away? Well, they've had time to prepare. You don't have time to prepare, right? You don't have time to prepare. You don't. Well, I mean, it's a crime that's not really a crime. You know, so a lot of people say it's not really a crime. Well, it is, but it's a crime that doesn't hurt anybody. Well, so wait. So it's a crime that doesn't hurt anybody. I said, so is speeding a crime? If you don't hit anybody, you didn't really hurt anybody. Nothing really happened. So should they let you go? Right? Who did that affect? I mean, you can just start. This is the point we're picking and choosing, and we're trying to do these things. Either we're going to have a country or we're not. And I'm all for making it easier for people to come here. I'm all for the kids that are DACA recipients having a pathway to citizenship. I'm all for those things. I got zero problems with that. I've talked about that. But I also have a massive problem with this lunacy of telling me that you're not for open borders, and at the same time, what you're suggesting feels very open bordery. Well, why didn't they notify people? So wait, you want them to notify people thinking that that's not going to get out and then people will not show up. How does that work?
You have to go in. You can't let anybody know. Otherwise, when you get there, nobody will be there.
That's Trump today talking about that. That's the reality of this, right? That is the reality of this. Well, it's retaliation. It's all of these things. I mean, Obama, who, by the way, we continue to say was the deporter in chief comparatively to Trump. Let's not forget that. You know, people say, well, Obama would never have done something like this. Look, it sucks that these little kids are seeing these things happen, right? It is awful. I don't want that to happen to anybody. But if the goal is all you have to do is bring a child and that will shield you from being, arrested and or deported, how's that a winning solution? I'm just curious. It's not. It's silly. It's stupid. But
Under Obama, they were focused on criminals, people who were part of gangs or had committed multiple offenses that would qualify them for a felony. And they avoided these mass deportation raids at office spaces, at sanctuary locations like churches or schools, for example, because they didn't want to instill fear in the community. They were prioritizing their enforcement. They recognized there are limited resources, so we're going to go after the real bad guys and leave those who are just trying to work, make a living for themselves, take care of their children to continue living and taking care of their children without fear of deportation.
Okay, well, how about this? The people that are in the prisons, we now have sanctuary cities and states across the nation where the feds can't even go in and pick up the bad people at this point in time because they won't work with them. Because they won't work with them. I don't care about Trump. I care about what are our men and women who are supposed to be enforcing these laws. What are they supposed to do at this point in time? I've been down on the borders. They're frustrated. They're angry. They feel like none of the politicians are listening to them at all. And if we're not going to enforce our laws, then what are we doing? I'm just curious. What the hell are we doing? Because this is a joke. Do I want to see people taken away from their family? No. Do I want to see our laws enforced? Yes. Do I think we need to do a better job at containing our borders? Absolutely. 110%. Do we need people in the future? They're going to come here and be a workforce. Yes, we do. Are there better ways of going about doing the things that we're doing? I think there is. In saying all of that, though, even during the quote unquote raid that was supposed to happen a month ago, on that Sunday where it netted 800 and plus bad guys on different raids, but the other raid netted nearly nobody. Remember, those people that were told to go and hide and what you can and can't do and how to be, to hide. Those people had already been given orders to leave the country. And you got politicians and people telling them how to avoid that from happening. What the hell is that? You don't even want to allow due process to play out? And when it does, you don't like the outcome of it? You're like, screw it? So are we going to all pick and choose now? Is that what we're allowed to do? I'm just curious. Do we all get to pick and choose? Curious. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. From there, we talk about kids. Here's the montage of fun that is the president.
We cannot bear, as you do, the full impact of this tragedy. But we feel the loss. We're thinking about you so very much.
Our fellow Americans must treat each other with respect.
When there is talk of hatred, let us stand up and talk against it.
It's a great country because we share the same values of respect and dignity and human worth.
If anybody thinks Americans have lost the capacity for love and caring and courage, they ought to come to Oklahoma.
I get on Air Force One where they do have a lot of televisions. I turn on the television, and there they are saying, well, I don't know if it was appropriate for the president to be here, et cetera, the same old line. I was here 3 months ago. We made a speech. There was some crowd. We had twice the number outside. And then you had this crazy Beto. Beto had like 400 people.
He can't win for losing and lose for winning. He just is Trump, right? He's not going to change. It's never enough. You don't like him. You do like him. It's the gun debate, though. In the end, it's the debate of whether or not he should have even shown up in any of these places, right? They were pissed off at him in Dayton because of what? What did he do in Dayton? He won the election and this guy hated him, and because of that, it's Trump's fault? Right? He goes to El Paso. I understand that a little bit more. But the gun debate's out there. What do we do? Once again, we could talk about background checks. We could talk about all of those things that people want to talk about, those red flag warnings that makes us feel nice inside.
We have tremendous support for really
common sense, sensible, important background check.
Yeah, well, I would like to know what that is.
We need intelligent background checks, okay? This isn't a question of NRA, Republican, or Democrat. I will tell you, I spoke to Mitch McConnell yesterday. He's totally on board.
So we'll see. We'll see. Mitch said he's not coming home, right? I mean, he's not coming back to D.C. to take this up. They'll be back soon enough, right? Dust will settle. People will breathe. Are we going to do something real? Still, once again, background checks, I get. Red flag, I just find it to be a joke. I really do. I think it's an absolute joke. I don't think we're going to get anything out of it the way that people think. Got to look at all the constitutionality of it. Not only federally, but at the state level. What are they, what states, are states going to be different? Or is it just going to throw a blanket law federally across there? So many things to debate and talk about in that situation. And on top of all of that, is it really going to do anything? Because we're still not addressing why are people pissed and angry, in particular young white males who feel like their life has no hope and they feel they need to make sure that everybody knows how much pain they're in and how lost they are by committing an act of violence against innocent people who've done nothing. Why don't we start drilling down in that and see where that goes? But we don't want to look at certain things. We don't want to talk about certain things. We want to ignore those things for virtue signaling and some sort of red flag law that will do virtually nothing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I took Jack last night's first NFL football game. Jack!
Yeah?
Did you like the game?
Yeah.
There he goes. He's playing PUBG right now. But oh, God, we're so blessed. We got to go on the field for the game. And by the way, if you've never been to a pro sporting event, in particular football, TV does not do the justice to the size of giant men who weigh in excess of 350 pounds and also are beyond fast. Just it's crazy, but it was so much fun, and they have a new hot dog here at the Cardinals State Farm Stadium, and we tried to down it with chili and cheese, and it did not happen all the way. It was like 14 inches or something. Good God, it was ridiculous. Beautiful, had fun. So my question though was, what was your first sporting event? Love to hear from you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I'm all about creating memories, and I think we need to do more of that. What was that sporting event? What was that thing that you did with dad or mom that was like, whoa? Tweet at me, text the program as well. Every day, I'm working in an amazing organization. Every day, thousands of animals are being euthanized, while at the same time we lose 20 veterans a day to suicide. And I'm working in this group called Wounded Paw Project. Right? You can check them out at woundedpawproject.org. Amazing. Absolutely amazing what they do. They rescue these dogs that are shelter dogs, train them to be service dogs, and in doing so, get them to our veterans, first responders, and their family. It changes lives on both sides of it, by the way. The animal and the people and family who get these animals. It is incredible. They need your help. It's not cheap and it's not easy. RV, car, truck, something you have, storage, you're never going to use it again. You think about trading in, selling it. Don't. Gift it to woundedpawproject.org. Get your tax-deductible gift. Write that thing off and change lives forever. They also take cash. It doesn't hurt. $1, $5, $10, whatever it is. Check out their website. See what they're doing. It is truly changing lives. WoundedPawProject.org. You'll call 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729, or WoundedPawProject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
You know, for all the talk of immigration and citizenship, only 36% of Americans would pass a multiple choice test with questions from civics test that people have to take when passing the citizenship and immigrations test that goes on. Some of the questions are, and I find it to be pretty interesting, some of these things. Name 3 of the 13 original colonies. Anyone? You got Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Virginia, New York, North Carolina, and Rhode Island. Rhode Island. What is one thing Benjamin Franklin is famous for? Anyone? Oldest member of the Constitutional Convention. First Postmaster General of the U.S. Jack's always on a $100 bill. This is Benji. He gets it. So, and I was going through it. I was thinking about some of these things that you could ask, and yeah, quite frankly, I think a lot of people would struggle. But partly because you learn these things, and then you throw them away because you're on to something else. You don't have to take that, right? You don't have to take that. But I know it. Like, who was the president? Okay, producer Phil, who was the president during World War I?
I don't know.
Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow. The dough. I call him the dough, baby. Right? Woodrow Wilson. So it's interesting. Right? It's interesting when you think about this. Like, here's one that is so true. Name your U.S. representatives. Most people couldn't tell you who represents them. Most people. They can't. They just have no idea. And part of that is they probably don't even know what district they're in. But most people couldn't tell you who represents them, how many senators you have, a lot of stuff like that, how long their terms last. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. A lot of people are texting in about what was your first sporting event. I got a lot of people a little bit older texting in. Somebody texted or tweeted at me, man, they went and saw a couple sporting events way back in the day. We're talking way back. We got one person, 68 Rams game. Dang. Got to see Hank Aaron and the Braves play at Fulton County Stadium. That's pretty amazing. That is insane. 1982, A's, Angels. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
You talk about racist. Hollywood is racist. What they're doing with the kind of movies they're putting out, it's actually very dangerous for our country. What Hollywood is doing is a tremendous disservice to our country.
I don't know if Hollywood's racist. Rosanna Arquette said yesterday she's ashamed for being white. That seems like a little guilt to me. I couldn't even imagine that. I'm ashamed for being white. I'm ashamed for being this. I'm ashamed for being born the person I am. Rather just say, look, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I've said this for years, and I continue to say this. I don't care the color you are. I don't care your sexual orientation. I don't care what you identify as. If you were born in this country, comparatively to pretty much the rest of the globe, you've kind of already won a bit of the lottery. Some have won more. Some have won less. But the reality is, you're kind of doing all right. You're kind of doing all right. It's just so funny, though. What movies are you talking about, sir, that are racist? I'm just curious about that. It's a video game. You played video games for the shooting. You played this stuff. I'm curious. That's it. Not trying to be a jerk. Just a question. Where's their racism? And I do think there's issues in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do. I think they are as hypocritical as anybody. But, when you just throw blanket facts out there, we're just curious. Right? These are my facts that I have. This is my truth. Okay. All right, we'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Mental Health Day. This is really interesting. 5 questions, mental health questions you should ask yourself. Right? Like, what are some of these questions that you should ask yourself? Because people are taking more and more mental health days, right? Isn't that what they're called? Right? You want to relax. You want to try to enjoy yourself. So these are the check-in questions you should ask yourself. How am I feeling today, both mentally and physically? What's taking up most of my headspace? When did I last eat a whole meal? Am I tired? What will I engage in today that will bring me joy? Like, what? How am I feeling? Let's see here. How am I feeling? Great, but tired. Why? Well, my ribs busted. I don't sleep very well. Jack and I went to a game really late last night. I got up extra early yesterday. Probably had in the last 3 days because of all the traveling and everything. And my rib, maybe a combined 15 hours of sleep over the last 4 days. Right? So I'm tired. And yesterday, Jack and I played sports for an hour in 103-degree heat. A little tired. What's taking up most of my headspace? All kinds of crap. Who isn't that way? When did I last eat a whole meal? What's a whole meal? I'm not quite sure what that means. Like where I sat down and had dinner? Last night, Jack and I ate way too much crap at the game. Am I tired? Who isn't? Name somebody who's not tired. Like, who didn't get enough sleep, running off, burning candles at both ends. That's just being an adult. And what will I engage in today that will bring me joy? That one's okay. Right? The other ones are just like, that's just being a grown-up, right? That's what that is. Just being a grown-up is those things. So those are the questions you're supposed to ask yourself on a daily basis. That's what you're supposed to do to find out if you're doing okay. So I guess if you're not feeling good, you're tired, you're not eating a ton, and you're not having joy, then you have a problem. And maybe you need to take a mental health day. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you need to take a mental health day like this millennial does. Now, I had to look several places to find out if this was absolutely true, because I was unsure if this was true. I'm like, there is no way, because we joke about it, right? We all joke about it. Think about this. Biggest group of people as far as generation, millennials. They're in your workforce. Some of them are, and you know this, and I'm sure many of you have had run-ins with them at work, and they're coming, and one day they may be your bosses sooner rather than later, right? Smallest generation, by the way, is Generation X, my generation, smallest generation, and I think the only sane one left. So, this was posted. I thought there's no way. I actually went to Carol Bleimer. I went to her feed on Twitter to find out if this is true. And apparently it is true. It's about a millennial. And Carol Bleimer, she was like a Times Woman of the Year in 2016. I mean, this lady's good. It was about a young writer, millennial, in her late 20s going over edits with her boss. She said the boss, who was also a woman, was giving feedback and reviewing edits that she had made on something the young lady wrote. She said they'd been speaking in low tones, but their volume got louder toward the end of the conversation because the young woman was getting agitated about a particular edit. Now, think about this, right? So this person's your boss, also a woman, so we could probably get rid of, patriarchy and toxic masculinity and all that stuff. So we're going to get rid of that. You've written something. This person's your boss. You're going to them with this, right? That's your editor. They're going to go over stuff. It goes from hushed low tones to a much more louder, argumentative kind of back and forth. The particular edit, get ready for this, kid, was the spelling of hamster or hamster. I said hamp with a P or hamster. Apparently, she used the phrase like spinning in a hamster wheel, right, in her op-ed, but she used it with a P. The young woman kept saying, I don't know why you corrected that because I spell it with a P. The boss calmly said, that's not how the word's spelled. There's no P in hamster. The woman kept saying, I don't know why you corrected me. I spell it with a P. Get this, I spell it with the P. The boss finally said, let's go to the dictionary and look it up. Now, again, late 20s, right? Not Jack's age, late 20s. And the lady kept saying, you don't have to. You don't need to look it up. It's fine to spell with a P. That's how she wants it spelled. The boss says, let's look over the rest of this piece so I can explain the rest of my edits. Do you understand? Because mom and dad, she said, used to tell her it was okay to spell it with a P. This is that fear factor in the world that we live in today, where if little Johnny says 2 + 2 is 8, and mom and dad say it's okay, and nobody wants to correct him, that somehow it's okay. 2 + 2 is 8. No, it's not. It's 4. I think it's 8. Well, it's only 4. Well, you're wrong. Well, actually, I'm not. No, you're wrong. I'm right. Mom and dad said I'm right. It got uglier from there. So I went to her. So I go to her feed to start reading all of this stuff, right? So what this lady does, the boss gets up from the table, right? Goes. She moves to another table. It's a common work area. Drops all her stuff loudly and starts texting. A minute later, her phone rings, she says. She bursts into tears. It's her mom. She wants her mom to call the boss and tell her not to be mean about telling her how to spell the word hamster. The mother tells her that her boss is an idiot and she doesn't have to listen to her, and she should go to the boss to file a complaint about not allowing creativity in her writing. What? I blame the parents, though. I blame the parents because parents have allowed this to happen. Parents can't look at their kids and say, no, that's not right. No, you're doing it wrong. No, that's not right, because they want to be pals and best friends. They don't want to. And you've got that in colleges nowadays. I've talked to numerous professors. We've had them on that are afraid to tell students in their class what the answer is correctly and to push back on them when they've got it wrong for fear of getting in trouble. That is insane. So when I was on her thing, I started looking. And other people are going, oh, yeah, I had this millennial. This is a great story. This guy's like, I've got this millennial that worked for me. I corrected his work. Right? Because it was wrong. I corrected some of his work. He quits the next day, and his mom and dad call me to yell at me. It's nuts. It's nuts. I blame the parents, though. Remember, it used to be helicopter parenting. We've talked about this. What is it? It's not helicopter parenting. It's now lawnmower parenting, where mom and dad, and in some ways society across the board, have taken away every obstacle for children. They've just taken it away, right? Can't get over that wall? We'll knock the wall down, right? We'll move you around it, where we'll tell you don't have to get over it. Rather than saying, get over the wall, get around the wall, get through the wall, knock it down. You need to do it. Mom and dad will do it for them. I could never in a million years imagine my mom calling my workplace to defend me. I could never in a million years imagine those kind of things ever taking place. I just couldn't. How embarrassed would you be? Like producer Phil, if your mother called me to complain about you, to complain about me because of something that happened between us, would you be mortified?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm going to have her call you anyway.
Yeah, you should. She's fun. But I couldn't imagine that. I could not even imagine that. That is insane. This is what's getting into the workforce. It's not all of them. Most of them are just good people who want to learn. But there is a certain sense of self-entitlement, and everybody gets a trophy, and they're getting out there, and they feel that not only do they know better than you, that they are better than you, even though you have more experience and you've done it much longer, that somehow, and I see it with some of the interns we have here, they literally walk around as if, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could do this in my sleep. That's how much better I am at this than you. I'm like, knock yourself out, bro. Go for it. Here you go. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Some of you texting in about your favorite games or the games that you remember as a kid, because I took Jack last night to his first NFL game. And It was awesome. We were lucky. Again, I always try to explain to Jack that, we live a pretty blessed life, and Daddy has a lot of radio shows and we do a lot of stuff, and we get to do some stuff, but it was awesome. And I kept thinking to myself, as a kid growing up, I remember my dad taking me to games, and my first game was a Dodger game, and it was awesome. And he used to take me every year on opening day, and it was so amazing. What was your first time you got a chance to go do something like that? Mom, dad, somebody took you to see it. It's a memory that really lives there, and it's incredible. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Yes, I will sleep better tonight as my rib starts to heal. Did not have my MyPillow last night because we called an audible because it was so late after the game. Rather than going home, we just got a hotel close to the station. I will tell you this right now. I am exhausted. No MyPillow? And with my rib, I got my premium pillow. It's incredible the way I can sleep. It's awesome. It is. Right now, they got a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got nothing to lose. Limited time, though. All right, free shipping coming straight to you. You're going to get 2 premium pillows. They got the regular MyPillow, and then they got the premium pillows. $69.98. $34.99 per pillow. So you can get 2 of them for less than $70. Straight to you, delivered for free with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Made in the USA, 10-year warranty. Wash and dry them. I just say dry them. That's all you got to do for the first 30 minutes, and away you go. Check it out. Grab yours right now. 2 premium pillows, less than $70. Promo code is Benson. Go to mypillow.com. Use your promo code Benson, or call 800-983-4975. And again, the promo code is Benson. 2 premium pillows, less than $70 bills, yo. You're going to sleep like you've never slept before. 60-day money-back guarantee. mypillow.com, promo code Benson. mypillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show, where we make no apologies, although we do say a few Hail Marys and Our Fathers now and then. Amen.
From dogs to Dora.
We're on to something big, Dora.
You have a lot of new films to choose from this weekend. The live-action, family-friendly Dora and the Lost City of Gold is expected to earn the most money, around $20 million, followed by the creepy, scary stories to tell in the dark. The dog-friendly drama The Art of Racing in the Rain is looking at maybe $10 million, followed by Melissa McCarthy, Elizabeth Moss, and Tiffany Haddish in the mob drama The Kitchen. Outside the top 10, look for the football crime drama Brian Banks, but none of the new movies are likely to beat holdovers The Lion King and Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to go see scary movies scary stories to tell in the dark next week. I do want to see that, but Jack's not really a fan of that. It's a little bit much for him. But as a kid growing up, I loved that book. And in fact, I remember the controversy, like whether or not that book should even be inside of libraries for kids to read. And it looks cool, looks fun. And horror movies are cheap to make. I try to explain this to people. Cheap to make. And they have a built-in audience. They do. When you go look at the most successful movies out of the top 10 or 15 all-time financially, it's horror movies, or they dominate. Like 5 to 7 of the top 10 or 15 are all horror movies, including the greatest multiplier of all time, which was Paranormal Activity. I mean, it cost $50,000 to make, and it made like, what, $300 million? That's a good return on your investment. It is. That is a really good return on your investment. So, but Hollywood is just full of nothing but crazy, racist people, Trump told me. What? Nuts. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. A lot of people tweeting in and texting in. I took Jack to his first football game last night. And again, and I love the memories. To me, like memories, like you could buy stuff, right, for kids and those things, but there's just certain, sometimes, yeah, you know what? The kid wants a bike. It can't be a memory. You'll just ride around my back. But there are memories. And like that's with Jack forever. And somebody just wrote in, I went to see the Dodgers and the Giants at Candlestick. It was freezing. Candlestick is the cold. That's the first football game I ever went and saw, was the 49ers in Minnesota. And it felt like Minnesota. Candlestick was freezing, right? But I just love memories like that. Like this will stick with Jack forever. He told me that today. It's going to stick with him forever. And when he has kids one day, he'll remember these things. What was your first sporting event? What was that for you? Text the program 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. A lot of you also texting in about the millennial who wanted to spell hamster with a P And they pointed out that that's not how you spell hamster. And she freaked out. And people are like, my God. But everybody's pointing out the same thing. It's the mom. Mom's crazy. It is. It's mom. It's mom. Mom's crazy. The only time I ever saw that, like in-person thing or like something like that was, remember at American Idol when somebody would suck and they would come out and their whole family's there and they were crying because they didn't get to go to Hollywood. And they're like, well, that Simon doesn't know what he's talking about because you're amazing. No, you're not. You sound like you gargle with glass, right? And and your backup voice is a raccoon in a blender. You're awful. But they keep encouraging. They keep stuff like that. You're just the best. No, you're not. Sometimes you have to face facts. You may be wrong. I'm wrong. I face it. Not always perfect. Good God. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter, kids. Happy Friday. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This serves as a very good deterrent. If people come into our country illegally, they're going out. They're not coming in illegally and staying.
But they are. And let's not pretend that they're not. Let's not pretend that the game isn't being played that way. You know, this whole thing that took place in Mississippi, which hasn't really deterred anybody. It kept people home. Kids didn't go to school. People are on edge there. And a lot of people have been texting me and been tweeting at me about, well, we should be nicer. It's like, what do we do? I'm curious. What would you like to see done? Right? Because I hear that you want strong borders. Because this is the way that a lot of people on the left preface this. I really want strong borders, but all of these people have done nothing wrong, so they need to have a chance to stay here. Okay, but they've come here illegally, right? You're not going to their country illegally. You're not. It's not going to happen, right? It's not. You're not going to a lot of these places. We would all like, God, I would just love to live in Italy. I'm just going to move there. It's not going to happen. It's like sometimes I'm always shocked by it's crazy. So it was funny. I flew on a couple weeks ago. I flew to Los Angeles, and the lady sitting next to me, she said she wants to move to. She was thinking about moving to Portugal or to South Africa. She wants to take her young son there, and that's where they were going to move. And we were chatting and stuff. And she goes, "Well, I'm just going to move there, you know." And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, how's that going to work? I mean, are you going to buy a house? Are you going to start a business? Do you know somebody? You're part Portuguese? Are you from South Africa? You got, you know?" And she goes, "No, I'm just going to move there." I said, "Well, they don't really I'm just going to rent a place and live there." I said, they don't really allow you to do that." And she goes, "They don't?" I said, "No." I said, "We're the only ones who kind of allow that." And the shock on her, like, whoa. So I'm curious out there, like, what is your suggestion? We've got sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that will not allow ICE or will not work with ICE. You've got politicians that are telling people that have even gone through the entire judicial system when it comes to immigration. They've come here, they've applied for asylum, they've gone to one, maybe two hearings, and maybe the second hearing they didn't show up because they didn't think after their appeal they were going to get a chance to stay here for asylum. And you got politicians warning them what to, here they come, and this is what you do, and this is how you protect yourself from being deported. So tell me, what is it that you would want, right? We can have empathy, but if you're just for completely having open borders, then what's the use of having a damn country? I'm curious at this point in time. Could somebody tell me? Somebody give me a real answer. Should we have, to me, the real way we do this is simple. We use technology, make it easier for people to come and go as far as temporary work visas, guest visa program, guest worker program, whatever you want to call. Have two tiers. Maybe you have a 6-month one. Maybe you have a year one. And maybe you have a 2 or 3 year one, depending on what it is you're doing here long term. right? And if I'm the Republicans, by the way, I'm getting on this as fast as possible before they end up losing. And then they lose more than just the presidency. They lose the Senate and they lose the House to even more Democrats. And then all of a sudden, you do have an opportunity for some sort of amnesty. There's a wide swath and boom. And all of a sudden, people feel beholden, potentially, to the Democrats that have helped put them there. The Democrats that helped put them there. Then what? If I'm the Republicans, I'm like, dude, I'm looking forward to figuring this thing out, right? So I give them a chance to have amnesty or in some of them, the DACA, we could talk about that. But a lot of the other ones, well, that seems what? Mean? And my grandfather's from Mexico. Nothing pisses him off more than this. Born and raised in Mexico, came here, did it legally, took him years before he became a citizen. The proudest day of his life. And it drives him crazy that people jump the line, the amount of money and time and effort he put into it. Yeah, frustrating indeed. So what do you do? What do you suggest? People are like, well, that's not, Chad, people don't really want open borders. No, they do. There are Democrats out there that do want open borders. What they want essentially is we say we have a border, but we're not really, it's more of a check-in than an actual, this is what separates us from your country. This is our country. These are our rules. Like, that's all they want it to be. Like, they don't want any punishment. They want to make it civil. If you come here, want to give you some sort of path to citizenship and opportunity. Tell me what that is. Tell me what that is. Who do we tell no to? My God, if we can't even work in the prisons, if we can't even work if ICE can't go to the prisons, if they can't go to the inside of courts, if they're not being allowed to go to jails to work inside of there in some cities and states. And they say what? We really want to get the bad people out. Well, if you can't work where the bad people are, you're going to fish somewhere else. If that pond is a no-go, then we're going to go to another pond. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. I keep seeing boycott Walmart, and I'm trying to figure it out because somebody's telling me, nope, it's all about video games. Another person's telling me, nope, it's because they sell guns. We're Soul Cycle, Equinox, Fox, Tucker Carlson, Walmart. I'm running out of stuff I am boycotting the boycotts.
Walmart is removing signs, displays, and videos that depict violence in its stores nationwide. Employees are being told to remove any violent marketing material and to turn off video game consoles that show violent video games. Also to turn off any TVs that show violence being depicted and any TV showing hunting season videos in the sporting goods department. Walmart is not changing its policy, though, on gun sales.
Okay, so not changing the policy on gun sales. Yes, on the violent video games. I'm still confused because some people are pissed off because they're taking down the video game stuff. Other people are mad because they're still selling these things. I'm so confused. Oh, God. How many boycotts can we have? Where do you finally go, all right, this is just ridiculous. Right? This is stupid. Like, this is just, okay, so the Equinox, you guys don't know what that is. That's a very Shishi gym, and Soul Cycle's one of those cool things. They're mad at their owner, by the way, because their owner, right, Mr. Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins, has been friends with Trump for like 40 years, is throwing him a fundraiser. People are pissed off about that. They're angry at that, right? Because that's what you have to be at this day and age. Players are speaking out about it. Like they're not sure that this is like they even want to play for him anymore. I mean, it's insane. Last night they played their first preseason game. Kenny Stills, one of the players who took a knee, who plays for the Dolphins, was talking about said thing.
Have you talked to Mr. Ross? I haven't. Do you plan to talk to him about this?
I'm sure at some point.
What would you like to say to him?
It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't align. To be running a nonprofit focused on equality and talking about sports and equality, and then to be holding a fundraiser for a man that we know isn't standing up for that same.
So he's mad because it doesn't seem to jive with him that he doesn't stand up for equality, but he does stand up for equality, but I'm not quite sure. And again, Ross and Trump, because Ross is a big real estate developer. He's the one who owns Equinox. His company owns Equinox and SoulCycle, and they're all upset because people are boycotting it now. It's just so insane. And my thing is who's boycotting the left? You shouldn't, by the way, right? If you give money to Warren or Bernie or to Andrew Yang or to, and Tom Steyer needs it. Like, even if it's $1, he needs it. He's begging. Poor producer Phil, what do you get, like 3-4 of those a day?
Oh,
just
yeah.
$1, Phil. Just Phil, just $1, Phil. Just $1. I'm trying to get on the stage, Phil. But so you're holding a fundraiser. So is that what we're going to do now? You hold a fundraiser for somebody, and we don't like who that somebody is. We're just going to boycott everything they do. That is so ridiculous. The people you hurt down the road. What do you think that helps, by the way? Right? Again, you're not changing anybody's mind. Fear. That's very authoritarianism right there. You're just trying to scare them into submission, which I find to be ridiculous and asinine. So we'll see. Speaking of football, I don't know if you guys heard today, Trump actually was asked a question, right, about Colin Kaepernick, which I found to be very interesting. I was like, wait a minute. He said something about Colin Kaepernick. He was asked today because he was talking about that great, beautiful love letter he got from Kim Jong-un, and somebody screamed out something about, hey, what do you think about Colin Kaepernick?
In your view, Mr. President, should Colin Kaepernick get an opportunity to play in the NFL?
Only if he's good enough. Yeah, if he's good enough. Yeah, I'm not. Why would he play if he's good enough? And I think if he was good enough, I know the owners. I know Bob Kraft. I know so many of the owners. If he's good enough, they'd sign him. So if he's good enough, I know these people. They would sign him in a heartbeat. They will do anything they can to win games. So I'd like to see it. Frankly, I'd love to see Kaepernick come in if he's good enough. But I don't want to see him come in because somebody thinks it's a good PR move. If he's good enough, he will be in.
Are you worried about first?
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, he should be stoked because Kaepernick tweeted out yesterday, I'm ready for the NFL. It's been like 800 plus days since I've last played. Remember, Kaepernick he opted out of his last contract with the 49ers. He still had an opportunity to play another year, and it was his option to walk away because he thought he'd go in the free agent market and have an opportunity. His numbers bear out. He's decent. But, you talk to other people, he's limited in what he can do. And if you're great, if you're Tom Brady, people will put up with the hell, right? Case in point, Antonio Brown, who arguably is the best receiver in football, is a pain in everybody's ass. Right now, he's threatening not to play football ever again. First of all, he got himself in trouble because he went into cryotherapy and got frostbite on his foot because he's an idiot. And then the second thing is, this is crazy. He's now saying he may never play football again. Why? Because of his injury? No, listen to this.
Now, it gets weirder in the sense that he has actually told the team that he will not play football again unless he gets to wear his old helmet.
His old helmet. He said he will not play football again unless he gets to wear his old helmet. He wants to wear his old helmet. If they do not allow him to play with his old helmet, he will not play football again. This is a guy who bitched and whined and moaned all last year in Pittsburgh to the point where he finally got traded. He got to the Raiders, and he's been nothing but a headache. But people are willing to put up with a headache if you can score touchdowns, if you can throw touchdowns, if you can block for your quarterback, or if you can get to your quarterback. People will be willing to just go, huh. If people thought that Kaepernick, for all of the controversy that came with him, could lead them to a Super Bowl, you bet your candy ass somebody would do it. They'll put up with it. They'll put up with the hell. Michael Vick killed dogs, but they thought he still had a chance to take him to the Super Bowl, and he had 2 years where he was amazing. People are willing to go even further if you're a superstar. They are. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Little What's Trending straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
And
It is Sheehy Giuseppe feeling it inside the 15, and he gets one block, and he's gone, and he is gone. Taking it the distance for the touchdown is Sheehy Giuseppe.
Now, that is a story right there. NFL last night had two amazing stories, and I just love it because I took Jack to his first NFL game last night. It was a great memory. We watched Kyler Murray play, number 1 overall pick, and I told Jack, who knows, man, maybe he ends up being one of the great quarterbacks of all time. You got to see him throw even though it's preseason, his first NFL pass, his first time. That guy, though, Sheehy Giuseppe, broke, living in Florida, homeless, goes to Cleveland, lies that he knows the general manager and the coach, right? Totally pulls a Willie Mays, remember that from Major League? He gets an opportunity just to do a run. They're going to time him in the 40. He blows them away. They say, all right, we're going to give this guy a chance. Now, while they're in camp, right, and at tryouts and stuff, he's sleeping in front of a 24-hour, gym. He's got nowhere to go. And the opportunity was there for him. I thought that's amazing. Great story. When he scored, too, the entire team who know his story were all down there. The place was going crazy because they knew who he was, and they all just were on top of him, piling on. It was awesome to watch. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. By the way, it's time to find out what's trending.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old intranet. What's trending? All right. First, let's start with Google. Premier League kicked off today. That's number 1 trending thing. The Kitchen is a movie that I will probably not see. Tommy Lee, because of what he posted yesterday about Trumpsters. Brooke Muller and the Steelers. Your top 5. Yesterday, Cleveland Browns, number 1 trending thing, along with the Patriots and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. On Twitter, Scary Stories to Tell movie trending. Epstein Unsealed, which is very interesting. We'll touch on that later. Kid Rock, because of what he said about Taylor Swift. Oh, my Lord. And boycotting Walmart. We're back to the boycotting of Walmart. That's what's trending, kids. Yeah, Kid Rock said something that was, it's funny though. What he said was supposedly unflattering about, the only reason Taylor Swift essentially is a Democrat is because she wants to work in movies and she'd do something to a doorknob just to have the chance to do that. Paraphrasing, but pretty much it. And yesterday, Tommy Lee said all this horrible thing about Trump and Trump supporters, right? Which is a free country. Do what you want. One of them is hailed as, man, you're amazing and you're awesome and you're a hero. And the other one is hailed as a disgusting, sexist, evil pig. I'm like, really? Really? So Tommy Lee is now your beacon for how to treat women. Just curious about that. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. What was your first pro sports game you attended? What did you do? What was it? What was that thing that you went and saw that was amazing? I'd love to hear from you. Text the program 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Took Jack last night to see his first game. It was awesome. Just the look on his face. We posted some pictures. It really was just an amazing thing. Something that will live with him, just like it did with my dad taking me to see the Dodgers. And then my mother taking me to see my first pro soccer game. It was something I remember 40 years on. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show. Twitter. At Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I think a lot of really meaningful things on background check will take place, including red flags, including a lot of other very, very important items.
That was Trump earlier today. Joining me now is a retired law professor and a senior fellow of constitutional jurisprudence at the Independence Institute in Denver, Rob Natelson. So, red flags. You've got a great new article. It's an opinion piece, Town Hall. Red flag bills, a new front in progressive attack on the Bill of Rights. Read it. It's a great piece. I don't think red flags will work for a lot of reasons. Take out the let's try to grab your guns and restrict you. I just don't think it'll work. What do you say?
Well, the studies back you up. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of research done on it because obviously they're still fairly new. But I found two studies on it. One indicates that they might decrease suicide rates a little bit, but another one found that they may actually increase rape rates a little bit, and they have no real effect on violent crime as a whole.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about. And the other thing is, and again, if it depends on the states. You look around the states that are trying to do these things, and I think we can all understand, Rob, that people want the best. We don't want people who are mentally disturbed. And we're not talking about somebody who was depressed 5 years ago because their mom died, they lost their job, they're going through a tough time in life, but they're okay now. We're talking about people that are really mentally disturbed. We don't want them to get guns. In saying that, though, it is that person from 5 years ago that's life is okay now, that could be used against them, that there's that fear factor.
That's right. I mean, in many of these laws, an estranged lover, for example, or a neighbor without any particular connection to the gun owner can seek one of these orders. And the experience has been that judges generally grant the orders because, our judicial culture is not real favorable to guns. Most judges, they don't want the risk of maybe there'll be a shooting and then the judge would be criticized for not issuing the order. So the tendency is to issue these orders almost automatically. The problem is that the orders are issued against people who have not committed crimes and sometimes on fairly weak evidence because the standards required by the laws are so low. And that's why people like me have constitutional problems with them, because they don't comply with the kinds of standards the U.S. Supreme Court has laid down for hearings of this kind.
You talk about the Constitution as we're talking to a guy who gets it. He is a former law professor and he's a senior fellow in constitutional jurisprudence at the Independence Institute in Denver. It's not just the Second Amendment. There are several things when you look at the Constitution that this may violate. And, and from the Fourth Amendment, I mean, the reality is there's not even any due process in some of this. You don't get your day in court for a while and you're essentially guilty before you've even had an opportunity to speak.
Calling it an attack on the Bill of Rights is accurate because you've got Second Amendment rights implicated. You've got a Fourth Amendment right of search and seizure, protection against unreasonable search and seizures implicated because the cops can come in, they can search your premises looking for firearms, even though there's no real proof that you even own a firearm and you haven't committed any crime. There's a Fifth Amendment issue. The Fifth Amendment says that property should not be taken without just compensation. There's no compensation involved. There's a Sixth Amendment. There's a right of Sixth Amendment to jury trial. No jury trial in these hearings. There's also a right to confront your witnesses against you. And many of these laws, most of these laws have provisions whereby the complainant can testify by telephone or not testify at all, just submit an affidavit. Now, some people will say, well, the Sixth Amendment only applies to criminal proceedings, but this is at least as serious as a criminal proceeding. And then you've got probably most important in terms of immediate threat, the 14th Amendment, whereby the U.S. Supreme Court has said that if you're going to go after somebody's property, if you're even going to freeze somebody's property, you have to meet a very high burden of proof. You have to show that there is imminent danger of irreparable harm, not what most of these laws require, which is a much lower standard, like significant risk sometime in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Let's walk us through this, Rob. So we're talking to Rob Natelson, former law professor, senior fellow at the institute in Denver. Who you're a senior fellow of jurisprudence, constitutional jurisprudence. You get it. So let's walk through. let's say somebody, how do we go from, hey, who do we contact? Is it the police? So somebody says my ex-husband, my ex-wife, whatever, is dangerous to themselves, my son, my daughter, whatever it is. How do we walk through the point where they decide, okay, maybe we need to look into this, to where the court gets involved, to where they come in and seize your guns? What does that look like?
It depends on the state. In some states, like Connecticut, let's say an estranged wife who thinks that her former husband might be a risk, she has to go to the police, and she actually has to convince the police to ask a judge for these kinds of orders. I think that there's a good deal of sense in that. But in other states like Colorado, she can go to a judge herself, file an affidavit, include whatever other information that she wants, and get an order of up to 14 days without notifying the husband. Once the order is granted, it's then given to the police. The police are then charged with the job of going to the guy's house and saying, you got any guns? We're going to do a search to see if you've got guns. Obviously, there's some real risks involved in this to both the police and to the people whose premises are being searched. At any rate, after the guns are seized or declared or turned in or whatever, you've got a period of time, about 14 days, again, depending upon the state. And at that point, the matter goes to a general hearing. But again, depending upon the state, it doesn't have to be a hearing such as you think of, with people testifying in court and the defense being able to confront the accusers. Instead, the hearing can be by telephone, which makes it pretty tough to assess the credibility of a witness, or it can be done by affidavit. And then it's up to the judge to decide whether a permanent order is justified. And by permanent, we mean up to a year.
Wow, that is. Again, by state, they're all a little bit different, but it is still, when you think about it, and I am a big proponent of, I think you are as well, as crazy people shouldn't have guns. I think we all understand that. People who are mentally disturbed, people who have essentially lost the plot, shouldn't be anywhere near guns. But the reality is, it's the unforeseen circumstances and consequences that come in where the fear factor comes in. We're talking to Rob Natelson. He's a former law professor and a senior fellow in constitutional jurisprudence at the Independent Institute in Denver. As we talk about the red flags, I look around and I say to myself, if we're going to do something, Rob, we've got to figure this out in a real way. These red flag things, to me, feel very virtue signaling. It's very much everybody gets to pat each other on the back and say that we did something. But at the end of the day, I still think bad people want to do things. They're going to get the opportunity to do things, and taking, the people that are going to suffer the most at this are going to be people who are innocent and didn't do anything wrong and may be in the middle of a damn custody battle.
Yeah, the people who are going to suffer are the poor, for example, or people who live in very difficult neighborhoods where they need a firearm to defend themselves, people who can't afford an attorney to fight this, the elderly whose family members think that Granny is senile and they want to take away her gun for one reason or another. And so it's the vulnerable people, as always, who are going to suffer most from this. Look, Chad, if we want to cure this problem, and we all do want to cure this problem, I think there are two principles we need to keep in mind. The first principle is you don't punish the innocent for the sins of the guilty, okay? You focus on the guilty, not taking away guns or otherwise punishing the innocent. The second general principle that you want to take into account is if you're looking for a cause to, let's say, the rise in mass shootings, you ask yourself, what's changed that might affect the mass shootings? I mean, gun laws have changed somewhat, but not enough to explain mass shootings. If anything, they've gotten tougher. Background checks, for example, we have them now. But we want to look at those things that have changed. We want to consider such issues as increased use of certain drugs, including certain prescription drugs. We might want to look at the general decline in religious organizations. We might want to look at the decline of what sociologists call intermediary organizations, that is to say, private associations where everybody knows everybody else, and that people generally can pick up if somebody's in trouble, if somebody is threatening. We might want to look at how the schools have changed. The schools have gotten, this is relevant to school shootings, the schools have gotten very, very big and impersonal. So I'm not saying that any one or the group of the things that I just identified is the cause of increase in mass shootings, but they're all things that have changed, and they're candidates we need to look at as opposed to the gun laws. I mean, we had more liberal gun laws at a time when we had very little mass shooting. So presumably that's not the problem. The problem is these other things that have changed.
So Trump goes and does something. They get together. They put together this red flag law, Rob. And so here you are. I mean, you're a constitutional jurisprudent, former law professor. You understand it. How many times is this thing going to be challenged? Because the states right now that have implemented something like this, they're challenged on a daily basis. Even the ACLU has fought against this because they worry about the stigmatizing people who had ADHD or depression, and you know, there's the whole thing with HIPAA and all of this stuff. But let's just say they try to do something. Does this get to the Supreme Court, and what happens, do you think, there?
Well, it absolutely does get to the Supreme Court. You know, under our constitutional system, the federal government is created for certain purposes. And if you go back to the founding era documents and study the record there, one of the things that the founders said over and over is that these kinds of issues, criminal law issues, issues involving social problems, they're within the state sphere. They're not within the federal government sphere. The federal government the federal politicians may grandstand on them, but it's really a state issue. So I would imagine that if the federal government passes a law like this, it'll be challenged on federalism grounds, but it'll also be challenged on First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, and so forth grounds. And I think that probably the advocates are going to have a tough time justifying this specifically under the 14th Amendment and Fifth Amendment due process clauses. I think probably that's going to be, if I'm sitting back and I'm saying as a lawyer, how do I challenge these things? I'm going to include a claim based on the Second Amendment and all the other amendments, but I'm going to focus specifically on due process because I think that is the handle that the court is most likely to give to strike down these laws.
Indeed. Great having you on. Former law professor Rob Natelson right there. He is a senior fellow at the Constitutional Jurisprudence at the Independent Institute in Denver. Check out Town Hall, his newest op-ed, which is absolutely fantastic and easy read. Red Flag Bills, a new front in the progressive attack on the Bill of Rights. Thanks so much for coming on today, Rob.
It's great being with you. Thank you.
Thank you. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. We'll see what happens. Again, we will see what happens. States are trying it. Some states are finding it that they're getting shot down in court, and even some liberal states are having issues. It's not that we don't need to do something. We do need to do something. But if we're going to do something, let's do something real that has actual effect. But most importantly, he said it. I've been saying it for days and days and for a very long time. Let's drill down deep inside of why these things are happening. What is going on here? Why is there so many issues with young men in this country right now, and the anger and the hopelessness? I think that is where the root of this lies. We start to solve some of that. We start to get through some of that. We start to break through some of those things. We will be in a much better position. A lot of this other stuff just feels very much like virtue signaling. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Twitter, Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what?
Officers arrested Ashley Rowland when a man she was staying with reported she stole his money. After a consensual search, a police report says officers found a clear plastic bag containing meth, more than $6,000 in a place where those two items don't belong. According to the report, Rowland says she stole the money but denies ownership of the drugs.
So wait, you have something in your vajay? I don't know how I got there. It's not mine. Not. I did steal the money, yes. But the drugs, not mine. He must have done it. Those are not mine. It's why I love live PD. I'll go home tonight and watch it, and I'll just laugh. Like, not mine. I've only had 2 are my favorite things. You could search the car, but whatever's in there is not mine. But it's your car, and you're the only one in it. But none of it's mine. I let a friend use the car who, I don't know. I've never met the guy. The lies people tell are just so amazing. It's all good, It's not mine, though. It's not, I don't know where, it's not mine. But is it mine? It's not. It's not. No, I only had two. How many? 2. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Well, I took Jack last night to his first NFL football game. We had such a blast. It was amazing. Memories made. A lot of you somebody just texted and said, my dad couldn't afford to take us, but he got a job working weekends and, at some of the sporting events, and he was able to take me to some of those games. Memories. Those are memories, right? Another person said that their first game, and Tammy in Vegas said their first game was to see the Minnesota Twins and Kirby Puckett. She was 6. It's a good thing, man. I'm telling you, those are big memories. A memory was made last night for a lot of people in a guy who has never played football in his life. He's a rugby player. He had never played football. Last night was his first game that he had ever played, and this was the first time he ever touched the ball.
Christian Wade is the running back, and he gets the carry here for the Bills. And look at Wade go! All the way from England to the house! Touchdown, Buffalo! Unbelievable!
And look at the Bills sideline. They are going crazy for their friend from England.
Yeah. Guy was a hell of a rugby player. Played for Wasps, which is a huge team over there. A guy definitely played for England. He played for the British Lions. So he's a hell of a rugby player. And he'd seen some of the, Aussie rules players come over and some of the rugby players try it. Thought he'd try his hand at it. And he got first touch, 65 yards. Man, that's a memory right there, right? And it was funny because, after the game, they interviewed him. He's like, well, he's all right. He handed me the ball and something I'll never forget. It just took off in a way and went. When are you taking those apples? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. It's not mine. Well, how did it get in your body? I don't know. It's just not mine. Okay, I get it's not yours, but it's in your body. Some people are so stupid. Happy Friday. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
They're all in Iowa because nothing says fun like ruining my day at the States Fair than seeing a bunch of people coming there to pander to me while I try to eat a 12-pound corn dog followed by a 65-pound piece of fried cheese over cotton candy. And then you got Joe Biden. Joe's been at it the last couple days. Before we get to what he did today, let's talk about what he said about poor kids and white kids.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Wait, what? Let's listen to that again.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Okay. Like, because there's no poor white kids, right? Like, that is that, right? So then you had this one yesterday, which is awesome. Listen to this.
Division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over fact.
So we choose science over fiction and truth over fact because facts don't matter. Let's listen to it again.
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over fact.
There you go. So you had that. So then you have today, Biden hanging out at Iowa. He arrives at Iowa. You got all kinds of people there. You got them people chanting. You've got all these, oh, God, I saw like John Delaney. I think he was barbecuing. Yeah. Look, I've come to see White Mountain, the world's largest steer, right? Right? I've come to see Ape Man, right? I'm going to pay my $2 to walk through and see that. I've come to see oddities of the world, pig races, and eat copious amounts of carbs and food, followed up by a funnel cake on the way out after I spent $30 trying to win a 50-cent stuffed animal. Waiting in line to watch REO Speedwagon. Right? That's where you go to the fair, right? It's fun. So then they all show up and do their thing. So here comes Joe Biden, right? So there's all these people around Joe, right? All of these people surrounding Joe. Joe, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Vice. So this young lady, she hops on in and she's got to ask Joe about genders. Like, how many genders are there?
My name is Katie. I am born and raised in Iowa, and I am currently a student in Iowa. Today, I showed up at the state fair to ask former Vice President Joe Biden a question about gender. When I asked the question, it took a few seconds for the question to register, and then he responded with 3. I asked a follow-up question. I asked...
Okay, so 3 genders, right? 3. That's what Joe says. And then we I don't know what we're up to now, like 78 genders, whatever crap they're coming up with and shoveling into the world of children's minds throughout this country. 733 genders. Which one do you feel like today? Shut up. Now, again, right? This is Joe Biden. He's there. There's hundreds of people around him snapping pictures. People, look, even if you don't like Democrats, it's still cool. It's vice president, right? So people are all snapping pictures, doing the whole thing.
Okay, what are they? Joe Biden looked at me and said, "Don't mess with me, kid." I turned to walk away, and then it doesn't stop there. He grabs my arm and pulls me back to make eye contact with him again, and he yells something about marriage at me.
Yeah, so Katie's upset because I think she wants to find out, because this matters, right? In Katie's world, she's going to vote for the person that will tell her how many genders that's going to, and I feel like it's a trick question, because you could say 48 genders, right? But there may be 72. There may have been a new gender added that we don't know about somewhere. I cannot keep up with the world of political correctness. I cannot do it. So she's upset. He says, "Don't mess with me, kid," right? Because people are asking questions the whole 9 yards, and he feels like it's a gotcha question. He says there's 3. He's like, "Well, what are they?" Right? So then, though, and I just love her attitude.
Thank you, man. Good to talk. By the way, first one came out from Mary.
So I walked away, and I was mad, just very, very mad that someone would actually treat me like that.
Treat you like that. He kind of grabbed her. I mean, again, there's a throng of people. He's surrounded. He could barely move. People are trying to shake his hand. He kind of grabbed her, and she's just like, "I can't believe somebody treat me like that." And he said something about marriage. The thing he said about marriage was, I was the first one for marriage, signing off on marriage. Meaning, when it came to, I guess she wanted it, which wasn't the question, wasn't about marriage equality, right? It was about how many genders. You got to get with it, Joe. You got to get with it. This is your sleepiness right here. This is the struggle you're going to have. I'm putting it out there. I don't want you to be upset. Just throwing it out there, Joe. Oh, good God. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Who's Iowa going to vote for? Who at the fair? Maybe they should do that. They should just have a caucus at the fair. Why even go through all of this other stuff? We could just do it all right there at the fair. You could come. You could win your stuffed animal, right? You could listen to some sweet 80s band. Like, hey, did you guys hear Scandal's playing? Like, I was just trying to think, what's a bad 80s band that you think would play at a fair? Motel? Just keep playing that one song, right? Like Loverboy. Michael, just play the hits. I want to see just play the hits. We should do that. Let's see who's playing. Let's see who the musical guests are. There's got to be some good ones. Okay, here's the musical lineup for the Iowa State Fair. I'm excited about this. Here's the entertainment. Oh, so you're excited, right? You're coming. This is it. Like, this is it. We're going to go see this. This is going to be awesome. You can't stop it now. These are the bands playing. Get ready for it, right? You're going to see the pig races. Like, who's your pig? All right, here we go. Oh, Phil, we got some ones for you. First, Wild Feathers. I don't know who they are. Vocal Trash, Variety. The Nadas, Sweet Tea Trio. But then you start getting into Jamestown Revival, Steve Adler of Guns N' Roses. And then the final two, Producer Phil, are you ready for these? These are the final two on the Mid-America Energy stage. Kix and Nelson.
Nice.
Yeah, a little Kix and Nelson right there. You guys smell what's cooking? A little Kix and Nelson. Kix and Nelson. Ooh. Branson must be closed this week. You're such a jerk, Chad. Oh, you think I'm a jerk? Wait till you listen in a little while. I'm extra jerky. Oh, my goodness me. So what are we going to do with guns? That's the big question that we have going on right now. Like the guns. What are we going to do with guns? Got to do something. The red flags, something.
I spoke to Mitch McConnell yesterday. He's totally on board. He said, I've been waiting for your call. He is totally on board. I spoke to senators that in some cases, friends of mine, but pretty hardline senators. Hardline, and when I say that in a positive way. Hardline on the Second Amendment. And they understand.
What do they understand? So you're going to do something, it's going to be something silly. I still don't know what you're going to do. Here's something I want everybody to understand. You know, when I was a broker, when we would talk to people, we'd have to send stuff out, prospectuses and things like that. One of the things we used to always have to say is past performance is not indicative of future results. Meaning, because you didn't feel great 3 or 4 years ago, that they may want to do these red flag things, that potentially you could be a person who could lose your weapons or whatever's going on. Doesn't mean you were going to do anything. And because you've been a good person and haven't shown any signs of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, doesn't mean in the future you won't do something, because you might. So past performance on this is not indicative of future results. If you want, and I'm all for doing something real. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for looking at how we can do it, but I'd like to address first and foremost, what is happening to these young men that have made them so angry? There's been times in our country where we've had our laws were so much more lax than they are now when it comes to guns. Well, we didn't have the capacity. Yeah, we did. We had stuff that you could do a lot of damage with. And guess what? We didn't have what we have now. So something has happened that has turned this into a really, really American thing. And it has a lot to do with our young men. And I want to know what the hell has happened. I think that is where we start. Doesn't mean we don't look at other things, but that's where we start. And I saw a great post today, and I thought, wow, that's really, this it was a great article. And this guy's like, if you want to prevent drunk driving, you don't tell everybody who's sober they've got to stop driving. Right? Just like, it's just like, you know, even Bernie Sanders came out and said, well, 99% of the people, 99.9% of people that buy guns are never going to do these kind of things. Whenever you do. We get that, right? But what do we do? Because what ends up happening is that, you know, those unforeseen consequences that hit everybody that we talk about, that we shouldn't be talking about. There's other ways to go about doing this. And if you're going to look at really doing something, then do something with teeth, not something because you want to feel like, oh, we've done something. We can all pat ourselves on the back. And then when we realize it really doesn't do anything but hurt a few people and isn't going to stop anybody. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Man, I've got a story for you kids later. Dad, I don't even know what to say. I had to look it up like 10 times to make sure it was real. Because I was like, it seems like something that would happen. I've seen stuff like this happen. But I just couldn't believe that it did in such a way. You guys are not going to believe this. We're going to talk about that. New York. Hey, you guys got your $15 minimum wage. We'll talk about how that's going. We got the boycott of Walmart, Equinox, right? Is that what it is? Equinox? I don't even know what that is. It's a Super Shishi Gym, Soul Cycle, Fox, Tucker Carlson, and now for all you movie and comic book people, we may have another one that you can be looking out for. Chad Benson Show.
Wanna be boys? Give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
You warned about this.
Oh, yes.
It's the law of unintended consequences.
Yes. And what you see happening in New York City, you will see happening in the 7 states that have already enacted gradual increases in the minimum wage to $15, such as Connecticut, Illinois, California, Maryland, blue states.
That is interesting. What's going on in New York City? So everybody's all about, let's do the $15 an hour, fair wage, the whole 9 yards. Just let's remember something. How many people are on minimum wage, realistically? That's the former lieutenant governor of New York. She's talking about, like, this is you just can't do this, right? Like, this is ridiculous, and it's going to hurt. And guess what? This week, study out, New Yorkers, guess what? It's helping a few, but it's hurting a lot more. And while you may be getting more an hour, you're getting less hours, or some people are just getting cut altogether because we'll figure out a way to do it.
Here's the issue. More people will lose their jobs. The Congressional Budget Office has already reported that if this went nationwide, which House Democrats are pushing for, the fight for 15, 3.7 million people would lose their jobs. Some people will gain because they'll have more income, but many more people will lose. And the Democrats are arguing, well, nobody can raise a family on the minimum wage. That may be true, but very few people, Stuart, getting the minimum wage are raising a family. If you look at the Bureau of Labor statistics, half of them are under 25. 6 times as many are having a part-time job as a full-time job. These are entry-level people who are acquiring the basic job skills so that they will be ultimately worth $15 an hour or more.
Yeah, that's right. I always say better yourself by figuring out what it is you can make yourself so valuable to a company or to some sort of sector that you can outperform what you need to live on. That's what you do. And remember, here's the unforeseen consequences in situations like this. They're having to raise prices. So you think, okay, who's that going to come and affect? Well, that's going to come and affect me. So if I make $18 an hour, right, or $20 an hour, now something else is cost, even though I make more money and it doesn't affect me anyways, what it is now is you've taken away my spending ability in certain places because you're making things more expensive because that's getting all passed on to the customer.
You do this, you go to $15 an hour, and you eliminate entry-level positions.
Oh, yes. And you can see fast food is already doing that. Restaurants are doing that with automated hostesses. Please take your own seat, that sort of thing. You can only charge so much for a bowl of pasta or a burger.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. Because that's what we're talking about here for a lot of places, is that. Frustrating, absolutely. And here's the other thing. You've been somewhere and you started at, let's say, $10 an hour. You've been there a few years. You've worked your way up to $14 an hour. Person starts there now, and now everybody's getting $15 an hour. So those 2 years that you've put in, the experience that you've gained, that you've made yourself more valuable, is 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. So we're banning or we're boycotting all of these things, right? We're boycotting Walmart and all of this stuff, Soul Cycle and all of these things. We've got to boycott. Arm & Hammer calls out Marvel Entertainment exec, the guy that runs Marvel, and he's calling them out. He says, hey, Well, everyone seems to be on this Equinox thing. It might be a good time to mention that one of Trump's largest financial contributors is the chairman of Marvel Entertainment, Isaac Perlman. Yeah. So think about that. So now, no more Spider-Man? No more... What's this? You guys going to boycott that? They tried... There's certain things where I think people go, oh, that's just stupid. We're not doing that. Right? But here's something for you. And I want you guys to understand this. I like that people have passion. I think it's great. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. But when you get to the point where it's so ridiculous that you want to boycott everything everybody does because you don't like their political, that's authoritarianism is what you're looking for. You don't like their speech. You don't like the fact that they have a different ideology than you, a different belief. And it's really funny and rich coming from Arm & Hammer, or Armie Hammer, whose great-great-grandfather was Arm & Hammer and whose dad's worth of $250 million himself. Just saying. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Twitter. I got a story for you about a millennial and a hamster. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
You talk about racist. Hollywood is racist. What they're doing with the kind of movies they're putting out is actually very dangerous for our country. What Hollywood is doing is a tremendous disservice to our country.
I don't know if Hollywood's racist. Rosanna Arquette said yesterday she's ashamed for being white. That seems like a little guilt to me. I couldn't even imagine that. I'm ashamed for being white. I'm ashamed for being this. I'm ashamed for being born the person I am. Rather just say, look, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I've said this for years, and I continue to say this. I don't care the color you are. I don't care your sexual orientation. I don't care what you identify as. If you were born in this country, comparatively to pretty much the rest of the globe, you've kind of already won a bit of the lottery. Some have won more, some have won less, but the reality is you're kind of doing all right. You're kind of doing all right. It's just so funny, though. What movies are you talking about, sir, that are racist? I'm just curious about that. It's a video game. You played video games for the shooting. You played this stuff. I'm curious. That's it. Not trying to be a jerk. Just a question. Where's their racism? And I do think there's issues in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do. I think they are as hypocritical as anybody. But, you know, when you just throw blanket facts out there, we were just curious. Right? These are my facts that I have. This is my truth. Ah, okay. All right, we'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Mental Health Day. This is really interesting. 5 questions, mental health questions you should ask yourself. Right? Like, what are some of these questions that you should ask yourself? Because people are taking more and more mental health days, right? Isn't that what they're called? Right? You want to relax. You want to try to enjoy yourself. So these are the check-in questions you should ask yourself. How am I feeling today, both mentally and physically? What's taking up most of my headspace? When did I last eat a whole meal? Am I tired? What will I engage in today that will bring me joy? Like, what? How am I feeling? Now, let's see here. How am I feeling? Great, but tired. Why? Well, my ribs busted. I don't sleep very well. Jack and I went to a game really late last night. I got up extra early yesterday. Probably had in the last 3 days because of all the traveling and everything. And my rib, maybe a combined 15 hours of sleep over the last 4 days. Right? So I'm tired. And yesterday, Jack and I played sports for an hour in 103-degree heat. A little tired. What's taking up most of my headspace? All kinds of crap. Who isn't that way? When did I last eat a whole meal? What's a whole meal? I'm not quite sure what that means. Like where I sat down and had dinner. Last night, Jack and I ate way too much crap at the game. Am I tired? Who isn't? Name somebody who's not tired. Like, you know, who didn't get enough sleep, running off, burning candles at both ends. That's just being an adult. And what will I engage in today that will bring me joy? That one's okay, right? The other ones are just like, that's just being a grown-up, right? That's what that is. Just being a grown-up is those things. So those are the questions you're supposed to ask yourself on a daily basis. That's what you're supposed to do, to find out if you're doing okay. So I guess if you're not feeling good, you're tired, you're not eating a ton, and you're not having joy, then you have a problem. And maybe you need to take a mental health day. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you need to take a mental health day like this millennial does. Now, I had to look several places to find out if this was absolutely true, because I was unsure if this was true. I'm like, there is no way, because we joke about it, right? We all joke about it. Think about this. Biggest group of people as far as generation, millennials. They're in your workforce. Some of them are, and you know this, and I'm sure many of you have had run-ins with them at work, and they're coming, and one day they may be your bosses sooner rather than later, right? Smallest generation, by the way, is Generation X, my generation, smallest generation, and I think the only sane one left. So, this was posted. I thought there's no way. I actually went to Carol Bleimer. I went to her feed on Twitter to find out if this was true. And apparently it is true. It's about a millennial. And Carol Bleimer, like, she was like a Times Woman of the Year in like 2016. I mean, this lady's good. It was about a young writer, millennial, in her late 20s, going over edits with her boss. She said the boss, who was also a woman, was giving feedback and reviewing edits that she had made on something the young lady wrote. She said they'd been speaking in low tones, but their volume got louder toward the end of the conversation because the young woman was getting agitated about a particular edit. Now, think about this, right? So this person's your boss, also a woman, so we could probably get rid of, patriarchy and toxic masculinity and all that stuff. So we're going to get rid of that. You've written something. This person's your boss. You're going to them with this, right? That's your editor. They're going to go over stuff. It goes from hushed low tones to a much more louder, argumentative kind of back and forth. The particular edit, get ready for this, kid, was the spelling of hamster or hamster. I said hamp with a P or hamster. Apparently, she used the phrase like spinning in a hamster wheel, right, in her op-ed, but she used it with a P. The young woman kept saying, I don't know why you corrected that because I spell it with a P. The boss calmly said, that's not how the word's spelled. There's no P in hamster. The woman kept saying, I don't know why you corrected me. I spell it with a P. Get this, I spell it with the P. The boss finally said, let's go to the dictionary and look it up. Now, again, late 20s, right? Not Jack's age, late 20s. And the lady kept saying, you don't have to. You don't need to look it up. It's fine to spell with a P. That's how she wants it spelled. The boss says, let's look over the rest of this piece so I can explain the rest of my edits. Do you understand? Because mom and dad, she said, used to tell her it was okay to spell it with a P. This is that fear factor in the world that we live in today, where if little Johnny says 2 + 2 is 8, and mom and dad say it's okay, and nobody wants to correct him, that somehow it's okay. 2 + 2 is 8. No, it's not. It's 4. I think it's 8. Well, it's only 4. Well, you're wrong. Well, actually, I'm not. No, you're wrong. I'm right. Mom and dad said I'm right. It got uglier from there. So I went to her. So I go to her feed to start reading all of this stuff, right? So what this lady does, the boss gets up from the table, right? goes, she moves to another table. It's a common work area, drops all her stuff loudly, and starts texting. A minute later, her phone rings, she says. She bursts into tears. It's her mom. She wants her mom to call the boss and tell her not to be mean about telling her how to spell the word hamster. The mother tells her that her boss is an idiot and she doesn't have to listen to her, and she should go to the boss to file a complaint about not allowing creativity in her writing. What? I blame the parents, though. I blame the parents because parents have allowed this to happen. Parents can't look at their kids and say, no, that's not right. No, you're doing it wrong. No, that's not right, because they want to be pals and best friends. They don't want to. And you've got that in colleges nowadays. I've talked to numerous professors. We've had them on that are afraid to tell students in their class what the answer is correctly and to push back on them when they've got it wrong for fear of getting in trouble. That is insane. So when I was on her thing, I started looking. And other people are going, oh, yeah, I had this millennial. This is a great story. This guy's like, I've got this millennial that worked for me. I corrected his work. Right? Because it was wrong. I corrected some of his work. He quits the next day, and his mom and dad call me to yell at me. It's nuts. It's nuts. I blame the parents, though. Remember, it used to be helicopter parenting. We've talked about this. What is it? It's not helicopter parenting. It's now lawnmower parenting, where mom and dad, and in some ways society across the board, have taken away every obstacle for children. They've just taken it away, right? Can't get over that wall? We'll knock the wall down, right? We'll move you around it, where we'll tell you you don't have to get over it. Rather than saying, get over the wall, get around the wall, get through the wall, knock it down. You need to do it. Mom and dad will do it for them. I could never in a million years imagine my mom calling my workplace to defend me. I could never in a million years imagine those kind of things ever taking place. I just couldn't. How embarrassed would you be? Like producer Phil, if your mother called me to complain about you, to complain about me because of something that happened between us, would you be mortified?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm going to have her call you anyway.
Yeah, you should. She's fun. But I couldn't imagine that. I could not even imagine that. That is insane. This is what's getting into the workforce. It's not all of them. Most of them are just good people who want to learn. But there is a certain sense of self-entitlement, and everybody gets a trophy, and they're getting out there, and they feel that not only do they know better than you, that they are better than you, even though you have more experience and you've done it much longer, that somehow, and I see it with some of the interns we have here, they literally walk around as if, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could do this in my sleep. That's how much better I am at this than you. I'm like, knock yourself out, bro. Go for it. Here you go. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Some of you texting in about your favorite games or the games that you remember as a kid, because I took Jack last night to his first NFL game, and it was awesome. We were lucky. Again, I always try to explain to Jack that, we lived a pretty blessed life, and Daddy has a lot of radio shows and we do a lot of stuff, and we get to do some stuff, but it was awesome. And I kept thinking to myself, as a kid growing up, I remember my dad taking me to games, and my first game was a Dodger game, and it was awesome. And he used to take me every year on opening day, and it was so amazing. What was your first time you got a chance to go do something like that? Mom, dad, somebody took you to see it. It's a memory that really lives there, and it's incredible. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Yes, I will sleep better tonight as my rib starts to heal. Did not have my MyPillow last night because we called an audible because it was so late after the game. Rather than going home, we just got a hotel close to the station. I will tell you this right now. I am exhausted. No MyPillow? And with my rib, I got my premium pillow. It's incredible the way I can sleep. It's awesome. It is. Right now, they got a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got nothing to lose. Limited time, though. Right? Free shipping coming straight to you. You're going to get 2 premium pillows. They got the regular MyPillow, and then they got the premium pillows. $69.98. $34.99 per pillow. So you're going to get 2 of them for less than $70. straight to you, delivered for free with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Made in the USA, 10-year warranty, wash and dry them. I just say dry them. That's all you got to do for the first 30 minutes, and away you go. Check it out. Grab yours right now. 2 premium pillows, less than $70. Promo code is Benson. Go to mypillow.com. Use your promo code Benson, or call 800-983-4975. And again, the promo code is Benson. 2 premium pillows, less than $70 bills, yo. Yo. You're going to sleep like you've never slept before. 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
I believe to this day, the red flag law would have been in effect, my son would be alive today. If we had background checks, there might have been a possibility my daughter would be alive because guns may not have made it to that venue that night.
Maybe not. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just know this. And we're talking to Rob Natelson right there, who is a professor, here's a guy who's constitutional, and he just thinks from the constitutional side of things. He's looking at the law side of things. For me, I'm looking at the practicality of let's dig deeper and figure it out. And some of you are texting in and saying, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I know he's a law professor, and he studied the law, and he taught the law and stuff, and you guys know so much more. But the reality is in the end, if we're going to do something, let's do something meaningful. That's real, that doesn't punish the people that have done nothing wrong for the sake of going out there and virtue signaling, passing something that, for all intents and purposes, is caught up in the legal system and fight for years to come and doesn't actually address the problem. And we need to do that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. I do love hearing from every single one of you. Some of you tweeting in, some of you texting in about your first games. Got a couple people, their first game was at Tiger Stadium. Oh, God, the old Tiger Stadium was awesome. But speaking of spurts, and I do like myself some spurts, as you guys all know, and again, I'd like to hear what your first game was that you went and saw as a child, maybe even as an adult. It was the first time you ever been to a game. A friend of mine, she said that her first game of any football or anything was last year. And wow, I was like, whoa, crazy. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter.
If you build it, he will come.
Sacred words there from Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner and Ray Liotta. Now Major League Baseball making it a reality. The New York Yankees and the Chicago White Sox will play at the site of the film's original location.
Is this heaven? No. It's Iowa.
That would be Dyersville, Iowa. Now, they won't play on the actual field. That's preserved as a tourist attraction, but a regulation-sized ballpark is being built adjacent to it for the game, which happens on August 13th of 2020.
People will come, Ray.
That's kind of cool right there. That's kind of cool. I like that. I like when they do stuff like that. I do. I love it. In fact, over where I used to live out in the desert, out in the Palm Springs area, and I'm sure across the country they have these, but it's really interesting. They have these Field of Dream for slow pitch softball. So one of it may be Yankee Stadium, and then it looks like Yankee Stadium in the outfield, the whole 9 yards. And then the next one you may play on is Wrigley Field, and they've got a Green Monster one and a Dodger Stadium one. It's really cool. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Here's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Do love hearing from everybody. I want to tell you, if you live anywhere there are seagulls, they have figured out something. If you guys know nothing about seagulls, they are how should I say this? A pest, to say the least. But if you want to stop seagulls from swooping down on you, becoming even more of a nuisance, and potentially stealing your snacks, scientists have done a huge study. It's according to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. And what they have said essentially is stop and stare at them. If they're buzzing around you, if they're looking like they could do something, if they're looking like they want to come and pick your pocket of your food, you stop and you stare at. You mad dog them, right? They mad dog you, you mad dog them. And eventually, they say, all right, I'm not going to mess with this guy. This guy wants to keep his food. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter, baby. Oh, yeah. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show.